All right, welcome to episode 13 of What's in the Box. I am Tolgar Alpagut, VP of Marketing here at Tatsoft. I am joined by every week here with our founder and CTO, Marc Taccolini. Marc, how are you?
Great, thank you.
And for those of you that happen to tune into episode 10, that episode we were covering intro to the engineering environment, and we had a little bit of audio issues. So this episode is going to serve twofold. It's going to work, one, to kind of cover some of that information just at a high level for you, if you did have any issues understanding some of that. And then we're going to be exploring the modules within FactoryStudio powered by Frameworx. So I'll hand it over to Marc here, and Marc, take it away.
Okay, so let's jump to the product right away, and I'll start with. Okay, when you install FactoryStudio, the first application is this one here.
Marc,
probably.
I'm sorry, are you sharing?
Oh, I need to share my screen. Small detail, thank you. Share, okay. Now you see.
Yep, I see you there. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So when we start FactoryStudio, that's the first screen where you have the tool to manage the applications and the solutions. Each one of those images is a full application that you can install in a machine or a local server to a distributed application. And the applications you manage here, they can be from the local computer, or they can be coming from a remote computer, which allows many engineers to work on the same projects, and you have different views for that. If I switch to table view, I can enable one column that's version to show one thing quite interesting in our products. That we allow to have different releases being managed on the same environments. When you have that kind of software that we install in the factory and want to do maintenance for many and many years, the upgrades used to be a problem. Not with us, because in these environments, you see I have different projects from many releases, even from our 2016 release. And when you open the project, when you edit, we automatically pick up the compatible version, meaning you don't need to upgrade right away if you don't want to, because whatever you are end user or system integrator, when you have a new release, sometimes you cannot install that new release in all your customers right away. So this environment allows you to manage different projects from different versions. And for our people from many other countries, we also do support many languages in our engineering environments. As well, the licensing. That's what this basic information project is. Going back to the table view, you see here a path. What's that? Each project, its solution, Create FactoryStudio, we store in one file with that extension tproj. So everything on the project, the tags, the screens, your code, is inside this one file that's in fact an encrypted SQL database. So our configuration we store essentially in SQL tables, and we're going to explore that in a little bit more, but staying in the high level first. Those projects that we are showing here are from whatever folders you have exposed here, or you can add and remove folders. Some people, they like to have one folder to each project. That's a good practice. You can do that, but in our case, you don't need to, in fact, because each one of those projects is self-contained only in one file. And when we start a new project, let's do that together. What options are important here? You can explore a few templates that you put some trend charts, some basic predefined screens for you, and you learn later to create your own templates. We have 4 products: Enterprise, the full system, and we have Express, that's for demos, and HMI to machine builders, OEMs, and edge applications, as well a product specifically to be data acquisition, OPC server, or edge gateway to another system. And here you see also, if I switch to Express, big one, we have 2 potential targets. .NET Framework 4.6 means any Windows box, can be from Windows embedded to high-end Windows server, the latest release. And this other one to deploy in Linux. So we supply to deploy the application both on Windows and Linux. The development of the application will always be in a Windows computer. Even, let me rephrase that, a Windows virtual machine, if that's the case, because I myself am using a Mac, but my environment to create projects, I run parallels with that project selection. When you start to building your projects, you go to this other interface, that's the project designer or the project configuration page. And some basic understanding of that UI. One thing that you have right here on the top is the ability to change colors, so you can have different projects. And hold on, I was trying to connect with another server that's no longer available. I'll go back to that project in a little bit. So let me reopen that one. Okay. If you're new again to our system, we have that concept of engineering and runtime, meaning we have this environment where you do your project configuration, and you have this other environment that's your application running. So when you have the application running, everything that you see here is defined on the drawing tools. So we do, if your navigation is here on the sides, or the look and feel of your alarm pages, we are completely free formatting on the way the runtime works. Everything on that is defined on the engineering tool. And before I go to the engineering tool, for the new users, some little bit of the runtime. When you create the application, we can create displays that look like that one, more process, OEM, or factory floor, or continuum process pages. As we can do also pages like that one, that they have that dynamic behavior, that when you resize, if you open this window like in an iPhone, you can have this auto-scaling. Or if you put that in a dashboard, you can also very easily zoom in and zoom out. So when you plan your application, before I go to the configuration tools, you can have process screens, you can have dashboard-like screens, and you can deploy in Windows Computer or also HTML5. And I will stop a little bit sharing the screen so I can talk with you, Tolga. During the presentation, remind myself what was the video I did explain the different technologies on the HTML5 or .NET Thin clients. We did one video specifically on that, okay?
Correct, yeah.
So when you go to the questions, please remind myself to point, because some of the concepts that I'll be presenting here, we did already cover in some of those other ones.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, let me go back to my sharing. Good. So let's go to the project configuration itself, okay? Just a second. Here it is. I'm opening that project that I just created, so pretty much we don't have, I'm starting from a new project, so you will be able to understand the steps on doing that, okay? Our main configuration file, we have those 4 icons. Oh, hold on. My VM just closed it. Let me switch to another one. Control Center. Here it is. Okay. And go back to that. Just a second. I'm starting a VM. We have the projects I want to show. Meanwhile, let's stop this camera so you can go back to my video. Okay. As my virtual machine starts, when you do your project configuration, the very first thing you should work cheaply is your data model. As the way it's our architecture, use a concept that is the data model or the unified namespace, if you talk now about IoT, is what's really important. On the past, when I myself started, it was all about the PLC, the data acquisition. So you do the PLC configuration, map the I/O, and show the I/O. Now, with the features that we have now, it's really very easy to modify what is the data source or to combine many data sources. So when we create that product, we started 10 years ago trying to create a product specifically to IoT. We created a solution that's not as much the communication, but is the data model that drives everything. So let's go back to the project configuration and see what that means. When you open your project configuration, we have those 4 environments. Edits, where you define your basic data model and some other tasks. Draw is the drawing tool, both for Windows Presentation Foundation and HTML5. Everything that you do regarding drawing is in these environments. Run is where we have tools to allow you to run, and also debugging tools, or allowing the application to run in test modes or cross-reference import wizards. And info, we have some information about our project, as well automated tracking, some projects version management built in the products. And when you do your configuration, you do the navigation between those 4 main environments. So try to think that as a web page or a website. We try to mimic the configuration like that. It means if you are doing the project by the typical beginning that's under edge tags, you don't have to press save. You don't have to do anything like that, because as you are typing or adding the information, it's already there. And all that information go to that database I described that store the configuration. So the way you do the configuration, it's pretty much very simple. We have the main typical functions for a real-time systems. So you fill your data in the table, or you import your data from CSV files, or import your data from some other connectors I will show later, and you provide your UI and use the tools to debug the application. And one thing that I start showing is here, if you have many projects open, you can customize which one you want to see. So you can have many windows with different styles. Which one is more visible for you, Tolgar? Light, dark, blue? Tell me which one you like more for me to keep.
Yeah, this light looks good here.
Okay, good. So let's keep on that one. So I will briefly explain what are those modules and how you use them. Okay. So tags is everything about your data model. So in a real project, typically you start your project by defining some data types. For instance, if you have some sort of PAG loops, probably you want to create a PAG type defining what you have to your PIG and use the names you have to your company standard. That the comps are the same, but sometimes they call slightly different names for the many properties. And when you have that PIG model defined, I can go here and create a tag called loop1, and this loop one will be from type PIG. Or I can even, instead of creating only one PIG, go here on array and create 100 or 1000 PIG loops. So with that definition here, I create this variable that is, if I go to info, I will see here on my project information, I have around 5,000 tags, a little more, because the ability to create data structures and arrays allows you to your data modeling in a very powerful way. And we will not have time to explore in this session, but here we allow you to do asset modeling or very easily connect with other assets like OPCUA, MQTT, Canary Historian, and other historians. So our asset modeling can be exposing pieces and parts of those external data providers. And on the tag historian, we do have a built-in SQL historian that by default is SQLite, but you can modify to any kind of SQL database. But we also have very good integration with products like Canary Labs and others that are dedicated for high performance, high speeds, high volume historians. So we have both options here, that is to store data using our built-in SQL or connect with those third-party specific tools. So pretty much tags is our data modeling, where you define your data structures. There are advanced concepts that are not explored today, like 7 client domain, lots of features around that simple concept of data modeling. Any questions on that module, Tolgar?
No, exciting stuff though.
Okay. Now that you have your data model, you can go to tags. And on tags, you have your users. And the way you do our configuration, use a system similar to the Microsoft's Active Directory. So each user, it can belong to many groups, many permission groups. And in those permission groups, you define to each type of the user what you can do when doing the project configuration and some basic security when running the application, like allowing to shut down. And today, it's not a train of those modules, but we have advanced features to allow create users dynamically or to apply policies to be compatible with FJ applications. And you can do a full security system using our own built-in tools, or you can run the application using the Windows authentication login. Or you can even have users of both types. Users that the authentication is through our Windows authentication server, or also we support LDAP. It can be also an LDAP server, or you can use our built-in securities. And our security, it's really very advanced. We allow even to allow by tag, which ones are going to read and write, not only by screens like HMI products, because by the way, we do HMI, but we are way beyond HMI. We are really to deploy real-time, large-scale applications in distributed environments. That's the maximum. And the minimum, we also have embedded devices for machinery. Devices.
Mark?
Go ahead.
I've got a question that just came through here. I'm going to post it on the screen. Can you see that?
Not really. Comments?
Okay,
oh, yes.
I can read it.
So I mentioned that story, specific canary labs for high throughput data going through a system. Oh, yes. Let me make sure I understood the question. If they can use our system to put data also on the historian or be a front end for the historian, which one of those, Tolgar?
I'm not sure, but Greg, if you're listening, if you can answer that for us,
yeah,
make sure that we'll.
I will reply as understands because it's a simple answer. In fact, we can do both. We can use our product as a data collector to put data in top of Canary, GE, Pi, any historian database. They have their own providers, but we can also add as a collector to insert data in all those historians. And we also have the other sides that we have high speeds connectors. We always do their native APIs for maximum performance, that you can remotely access their data to do the trend charts, to do historical displays. So we use our front ends from those historians very nicely. And when you are connecting with that, let's go to my drawing tool. So I start showing case our drawing tool and explain a little bit about the historian. The way we do that connection is if you have here FactoryStudio, and if you have here your historian server, the way we do the connection, and here you have your historian server that we allow hot standby, by the way, is that we have a high-speed connection between our server and the historian. And all the clients that are connected, the remote clients, HTML5 clients, requesting that data from the historian, they don't need to hit the historian directly. They go through FactoryStudio. That allows us to cache the data, have less traffic on the network, and it's a very high performance to not only publish data, but also to have the visualization of third-party historians. I'll keep moving, Tolgar. If some other question hits on that, after explaining the devices, I go back, okay?
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Greg. And if you have any other further questions, just drop it in the chat there.
Okay, devices is all about data connectivity. So we like to have native drivers. So we do support OPC, of course. We support OPC Way, OPC AJ, OPC GA. We support as a server. We support as a client. So we do have full OPC Way support. But there are many reasons that I did cover in another video why devices are important to have native drivers. And we did that, didn't we, Tolgar? We do have a video on drivers explaining why the native drivers are so important.
Yes.
And eventually we'll publish a link here as a reminder if you didn't saw that one. So we ship the product with more than 50 communication protocols. And you are always adding anytime you find equipment that's not here. That's why you added even equipments, legacy equipments like Bailey. And we even had Rockwell PLC2. Beckhoff, Bosch, CTC, SNMP, Siemens. And by the way, not only industrial protocols, it support also things like SNMP for network management, and also integration with third-party data providers like GProf Store and other tools. That's all in the box, and always as much as possible using their native APIs. That's the devices. Next, we do have a very strong and powerful alarm system that allows the creation of hierarchical areas, very advanced features like acknowledge timeouts, active time deadband. So it's quite complete alarm and notification system. We do have a full easy integration with any kind of databases, SQL and NoSQL. So we ship out and recognize which providers you have installed on that computer. In that case, I have Postgres, SQLite, SQL Client, Oracle, OLEDB, and Microsoft SQL Servers. If you put Sybase here, we'll recognize. And we have an easy way to access tables and queries from those databases. So to give what I mean by that, if I want to select all data from this table where product name equal test, that's not very nice for a real-time project because I want to have a tag here. So in our case, you can do just like that. And now that's it. When you run this application, your query will be dynamically decided when the application is running to develop that tag. So if you're doing your grids in the data from the PLC or the user input, doesn't matter because we always work all those modules on top of the tags. And on files, we allow some other types. There's still use projects, they want to have text files in Unicode or ASCII or XML data. So we have an easy way to exchange data with that kind of archival. That's data sets. Questions, Tolgar?
No, we're good here.
No questions, Tolgar. Okay.
No questions.
Okay, just make sure there's no questions or there was no audio.
Yeah.
Okay, scripts. That's why, by the way, we have the acknowledge. You need the ack. Anyway, scripts, they are very powerful. So if you want to run some code every 1 second, or every 2 seconds, or you want to run some code when this tag has a new value, or you want to run this code when this alarm of this group, you has a new alarm. and you want to run that code on the server computer or on each client connected server. So we have many ways to start those tasks, as well many options of language, VB.NET, C#, and Python. And when you create that code, we don't need to go to Visual Studio because we have a built-in editor that we support pretty much everything that you use from the .NET. If you are a programmer, you are recognizing that all those namespaces that are showing here is pretty much the .NET API. And we can use out of the box all the features as those three languages. As well, you can access our own tags and all namespace in a very easy way. When doing those tasks, sometimes we want to create classes or libraries or custom libraries. So we support that well. Here's some examples, a little class that we did to create some message showing the computer CPU and memory that I was using when run that application. Or sometimes we want just to do some simple expressions. You just should create something like that. Okay, pick up tag 1 plus tag 2, and I want to execute this expression every time I have a change in those variables and save that on this tag. So if you want to do something that's more event-driven, that's what I call expressions. We manage, that's also events, but here you have a full code. Here you have just calling a class or an expression directly to more easily manage simple events. We have scripts also connected with the displays, but I'll talk about that later, okay? One question everyone asks, which version of .NET? Now it's 4.6. And what about Python? Python, we can use any version. If you go to Info Project Settings, you have here the Python engine that we're using, okay? Next, displays. It's where you can switch to card view, and that's where you define your user interface. And you see we do have different types of displays. We have three types. We have .NET clients, HTML5 pages, pure HTML5 that you run in any browser. And we do have also a native iOS app, as well, support from many monitors. On the displays, we also support advanced concept of layouts, so you can do frames more easily, not having to switch all the pages. And we do have the nice feature to embed some image in the project file. So when you deploy that project to a new computer, those resources, they go automatically with the project when they are used on the screens. And the drawing of those displays itself is in the drawing tool that I will show in a little bit. And finally, the last major module is the reports. On the reports, you can create some basic things like CSV data or text file where you have some basic information, or you can also create PDF files. And when you create PDF files, we have a little more complete editor where you can put fonts, you can add symbols, you can have much more complete editing to do those reports. And here I'll pick up a tag to show the value of this tag when I print the reports. Again, that's not a training of the reports, just very high level. So when you understand those main 8 modules that we have here. Questions so far, Tolgar?
No, this is good. I'm enjoying this, but
Okay.
no questions at the moment.
Okay, so keep moving. The way we did that interface, nothing is by accident. So with 3 clicks, you go any place. So because you have these main environments, then you have here, and to each one you have those steps. And the order we put those, it's more or less cheaply how you do your projects. So cheaply you do your project, right? Reading a book, you go up, down, and left to right. Okay. Well, sorry for the ones that speak the language that's the opposite. But it's top, down, left, right. So when you work with tags, you define your tags, eventually customize your templates, define asset model, and storing. Also on devices, you define which protocols you're going to use. So in this project, I'm going to use Modbus and Rockwell. Now that I added which protocols I want to use, I need to define my nodes, meaning, okay, I have a Modbus device in this network, which station is? Or I have a Rockwell PLC, what is the node for that Rockwell PLC? And then when you have the nodes, you define the points, meaning, okay, this tag from my application, I want to map to the Modbus node 1 to this Modbus address. So you see there is a logical order when you think on the projects. And I will not go examples with all of them, but that's the same for alarms, data sets, scripts. You just go through here and you fill those simple tables. And I like the concept to do the thing data-centric, expose the functions, because it doesn't matter if your project is a simple HMI with 100 tags or a very, very large application. That basic real-time functionality is the same always. There is, you may call slightly different names based which product is the past or your company, but those concepts of data modeling, security, data communication, alarms, database and file connectivity, custom scripting, user interface and reporting, that's the 101 for your real-time requirements, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's go to drawing. On draw is where you are going to draw your UI. And please, you can do way better than that. Don't look just drawing as example. I am not an application engineer. I'm more a system architect. That's why we do have a very large symbol library that you can customize completely. You can create your own symbols. You can very easily map symbols to tags, or you can just copy paste tags directly from an external source and just drop the variables here, and then you create whatever UI you define it to be the default for that data type. And we do have very powerful codes connected with that script. And that code can run as quick as 50, in some cases, even 20 milliseconds. So we are known to be the fastest product in the market. And that's not myself talking. There are some integrators, they have some YouTube videos with that statement. When performs our requirements, we are the #1 on that. So draw is everything about managing your user interfaces. Again, not a training. We have some other videos on that. Now that you did set up your configuration to run that, so build allows you to create a version number for the projects. I will not do that now, but the build allows you to do versioning. And then we have 2 ways to run the application. In test modes that you run, it's not a simulation because the application is running for real, but you can define the alarms that are going to go to a testing database. So you don't put alarms when test the application in your production database. You can make your field devices to be read-only. So when running in a test, you don't write the devices. So there are more features that I not explain now, but you can run even on the same server at the same time, the project in production modes that you call startup modes, and you can run another instance of the same solution on the same server in testing mode. And when you do that, we allow online configuration, we allow hot starts, lots of features around that. And you don't need to publish. Perhaps when you put publish, people think, oh, now you need to publish. No. Publish is only when you want to create a read-only version of the project that no one can modify, even they have the configuration tool and the security authorization. So publishing is like if you're creating an exe file. This publish project run only this configuration. That's important for regulated areas that want to have very strict control on what you're publishing to run on that area. Okay.
Okay.
Because if you don't have that requirements, any of our project files that explain that tprosh file is the only file you need to deploy to run the application. But this project allows if you don't want that project to be allowed to be modified, of course, there is the security. But if you want to full protection, we have that additional feature. And finally, tools. We have advanced features like cross-referencing, deleting used objects. Our cross-reference is not only about tags. We show we're using even displays, everything, scripts, always an object for us. There is a visual about that also. We do have features like to create enumeration sets, to do language translation, if you want to do a project that runs different languages. We have advanced comps like categories, managing engineering units, teams that allows you to fill more advanced specific requirements in your solutions. And lots of interest extensions. So if you're doing an application, OPC, Rockwell, Schneider, Predictor, Canary, GE, Wonderware, S&P, Beckhoff, we do have lots of wizards that we can connect and explore the tag definition for man-and-man systems right away, okay? Or in some other cases, like InTouch, even imported the tag database to our solution. As well, you can export components that you created for your project to be reused in some of the solutions that you deploy. Okay. Questions so far, Tolgar?
No, we're good here.
Well, that's lots of functionalities. So you need some way to manage that. That's why we decided to embed some built-in version managements. We can, of course, work with third-party version management tools, but we decided that was important to have some basic tracking right away. So, and the name of our configuration tables, they are very simple to understand because they are exactly what they are on this interface. So when I'm talking here like edit, alarms, groups, what is this part of the configuration? Well, edit, alarm, groups. So it's edit, alarms, groups. The three layers, again, here. So each piece of our configuration is composed by those names. That's exactly the configuration table where we store that configuration, okay? So we did try to be very creative in many aspects, but not in the software configuration itself. We like to keep it simple. that we try to do, being very consistent with the name conventions across everything. And not only track any modification do in each table, but we can track everything you do in the project as a whole. So if I log in as administrator, because of course, to enable and disable the change management, you need to have some privileges. So if I enable that tracking now, and I create a new tag in the application, or I delete a variable from that application, now the change management is on. So you know what was created by who and when. Okay, and that's built in the products. And when we have that, as I said, you can run in test mode or in production modes. Here, and press the button Run Startup to put that project to run. But of course, you can install your application to run as a Windows service. So when the application starts, it will automatically load your application. Or you can create shortcuts to command line. And so here is my application. And I need really to make very clear that I'm not an application engineer, and this was not supposed to be a real project. But we have a nice display here.
There we go.
This one was built in on the template. When I started the project for templates, I had that one already available here. Questions, Tolgar?
No, we're good so far. I'll definitely let you know, though, for sure.
Okay. And by the way, this display is using that dashboard technology here. That's here when you can when you resize it feels properly to use the resize. Mm-hmm. And some other places like this one, you resize, we stretch. Okay. So we have this nice feature to accommodate both styles on the same project. Here it is. Now the process is running. Find how I stop that. Some users, when they start playing with us, they just go here and they close. But when you do that, you only close the displays. When our software is running, we have all those modules I did show running in background, each one in its own Windows process for security and for performance. So you see you are still closed displays, but scripts, devices, stories, alarms is all still running in background. So to stop, you do your shutdown here in this button, or you do your shutdown here from the UI, or you find the process that you call T-server, and you can shut down from here also. And of course, that shutdown will be allowed to be executed only if you are a user that on the runtime has permissions to do shutdown of the system. Okay. I think I went through everything, Tolgar. So let me stop sharing and let's go to talk again face to face here. So we can try to go to some questions. Anyway, any question from you, Tolgar, or we are good?
You know what? There is one question here that I missed before we wrap up that Greg had posted. So, Greg, my apologies. I did miss this, but I'll throw it on the screen here. Can you see that, Mark?
There's we release one upgrade in our control logics driver that you allow to discover raw code devices. But the question here is to auto-discover in a network any kind of device. No, that's not what we do in general, okay? But if you have that requirements, there are some very interesting products on the markets that they do have that automated discovery, not only for PLC devices. They find all kind of routers. They come all kind of network devices, and those devices they do have integration tools to allow export the data. So if you want to have a combined solution that we have the real-time module connected with one of those network management systems, yes, it's possible. But the specific tool to do network discovery, even we can do with some specific brands of PLC, that's not our targets.
Greg, hopefully that answers your question. If you have any others, just drop it in the chat there. Or if you are unable to attend this live and you'll be catching a recording of this, you can always leave us a questions at forum.tatsoft.com. Marc, thank you very much for today's presentation. Audio was excellent.
Great.
And so we will have this hosted on both our LinkedIn as well as our YouTube channel on the playlist, and then we'll announce what we're going to be talking next week. We'll announce that in a couple of days here, and I'm excited about that because we're going to be doing a little bit of a different format. So stay tuned for that. And Marc, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We had great numbers today, so good stuff.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care, Marc. Bye.